Welcome to Introduction to Business. My name is Dr. George Mochocki, and what do we have this week? This week we're going to be covering Chapter D, or Chapter 24 in your book. This is a series that we're doing in learning Introduction to Business that you're taking with me either online, face-to-face, or in a hybrid a platform. Okay, personal finance. Before we get into the corporate finance, accounting, chief financial officer, I found out that you, first of all, have to understand your own personal finance. So what do you want to know about your personal finance? Because if you understand your personal finance, and you're all chief financial officer from your own home budget, you manage to pay for the class, you manage to pay for your rent, you manage to pay for your insurance, you buy stuff, you buy stuff online, you look for the best prices, you have a budget, you have a checking account, you have a saving account. Everything else you do, everything you're doing here in this class that you're going to learn in this section of personal finance is going to be an extension into your business financial. So most of you here are taking me online. You're part of the forum. One of the forum questions you have to ask yourself: should I use personal finance, my personal finance, when I open up my business or when I open up my new venture? And some people say, yeah, that's a good idea. That's a part of investment. And you'll find out, yes. But if your business goes under, do you want them to take your house? So a lot of people, business individuals, they'll do their individual business on their own, get the loans and everything else separate from the personal, what do you call it, uh, financial obligation. So they keep the mortgage, everything else out. And the only way you can do that, what you've learned from previous chapters, you can't do that as a sole proprietor, and you can't do that as a partnership. Because if you can't take care of your debt from the business to go after your personal assets, so you have to be either a corporation, a Chapter 7, or a limited partnership, which basically gives you the same rights as a corporation, only without all the paperwork and rules and regulation. Okay, so let's go into our personal finance. Well, let me get rid of this. So now, if I look at my personal finance advice, no different. And remember, when we're looking at not the connect, but the debates and the forums that you're required to take within my class, you are basically looking at what you call advice. So people within your network, your friends and family, good advice. Financial planner, he or she or a coach or life coach will help you to see how to maximize your money so that you don't waste your money. And your publications, an attorney, and insurance agents. And if you're looking at State Farm or Allstate, they all basically do some kind of financial planning. It's not an insurance agent, they're financial planners. Okay, so but when you're looking at taking advice, if you're taking advice from somebody tell you how to save money or make money, and they got a raggedy house, you see the creditors coming after them, they don't have a nice car, that's not the person I would want to take advice from. Okay, so if you have one. Now, 6 steps for financial control. And these same 6 steps are the same six steps that you need when you're running a business or an apartment doing the budget. Okay, you got to take inventory of financial assets. Where's the money coming? What are my expenses? And just books like QuickBooks that you're taking, or some financial tools, or you could. A lot of banks have you could if you categorize, is this insurance, is this for food, if you categorize this at the year end, they'll basically do the summarization for you, and you can say, man, I'm spending a lot of money on entertainment, and I'm not spending too much money on my car, and I need a new car, so how do I shift that money around? This is what you're going to do. So you track all your expenses, and all the expenses is easy now, because a lot of people are using debit cards or instead of the checkbook, so it's easy to track your expenses. But make sure you categorize them. Otherwise, you have a lot of expenses and you don't know what, spend a lot of money. Which areas do you want to maximize it, or which areas do you want to reduce? You'll prepare a budget. A budget is no different than you do in businesses. I only have $5,000 to spend for my business, or I have $500, or I have $50 this week. How do I budget at $50 that it stretches out and I can maximize the money? So I don't have so much money, there's no other money coming in. How do I use that so I use it effectively and efficiently? Pay off your debts. What do you do with when you're learning to paying off your debts? From a financial, do I pay off my 2% charge card debt, or 18%? You pay off the higher percentage bearing debt to get rid of it, because otherwise it'll eat up into your money. So you always pay off the highest percentage, and that's how and then after you pay off that amount, and then you use that money that you no longer owe them, and add it to double the amount for another debt or a credit card that you're owing. Okay, and start a savings plans, or if they would say a CD. Okay, savings plans, you're not going to get too much money out of it. So do I invest in stocks? Do I invest in mutual funds? That's something you have to look at. Okay, and the last one, only borrow money. I'm not saying not to borrow money, not to take out a loan. Only to buy assets. I see sometimes I teach at Great Lakes or I teach at some other places, and I see students charging. I know it's a charge, another debit card. They're charging for the lunch. If I'm going to charge for anything else, and I'm going to have the creditors after me, have some asset that I could at least sell and say, look, I charged, but I got this big definition TV. Now but I'm saving money because I'm not going to the show. So that money that I would spend in entertainment, I'm utilizing to pay off this and pay off some other debt. You see how you're thinking? You're thinking as how do I maximize my investments? Okay, and cash flow. Cash flow is the biggest thing a lot of people have. I have a lot of money coming in, but I don't have enough money at the right time to pay my bills. Or I can see people online, oh, I don't have any money in my checking, but I do have a lot of money. I got CDs, everything else. It's just that I don't have it at the right time. Most businesses suffer because of a cash flow problem. If I have the cash flow problems, I'm not paying my creditors on time, my suppliers, my employees. And all that gives me a mark against my credit rating. Because if you're going to find out the credit rating you do in your personal finance, could carry over if you're going to sole proprietorship, because you're using that character and credit and everything else to paying back as your a basis for them to trust me as I'm running a business, because I got a good credit rating as for my own personal aspect. You also income, expenses, and that's if you're looking at the quick assessment, I'm going to make you do with CNN. What do you call it? How financial healthy you are, and that's what you're going to do and incorporate those findings, because they're going to ask you how much you're making, what's your age, and how much you're paying for rent and everything else. And that's the same thing that a bank's going to look when they're going to look to see could you qualify for a loan, for a car, or for a home. You're going to see how much money you already owe out there, and you have to live so much for transportation and everything else, and do you have that disposable income to buy your house, and then you're actually tracking the actual 1 month. And when I'm looking at everything else, a lot of times we forget, we buy a paper, we buy a pop, and that's expenses going up, but we don't keep a track of it. If you had it in your wallet and you come out, you got $50, and then at the end of the day, I said, oh man, I got $20. Where did my money go? Because you buy all these little things that are going out there. Okay, so that's cash flow. Household budget includes mortgage, rent, food, the furniture, insurance needs. Same thing. You change this to a business, and that's your basically budget. If I'm up with a business, how much do I need for the rent, for the insurance, and for my goods and supplies? I know for my costs of doing business. Okay, and then you're going to talk about build a financial base. If you get married or you have a partner, you're living together, what you basically have to do is make sure you can try to live off of one salary, and the other ones you put in and invest. My son's doing that, and it works out pretty good. She's bringing in some money, and he's bringing in some money, and they live on one account, one basis, and the other one just saving up so they could pay off debt or buy a new car or whatever you want to invest the money. Okay, benefits of buying a house. Now, if you don't want to buy a house and you can't maintain the house, because then you're going to lose money, you're going to lose the house, you do everything else. If you're only going to live in a place because you're going to school and you're working 24/7, get a nice apartment, or get an apartment that you can at least put your head on, and you have friends, because you're not spending much time in it, so it's an asset that's making no money for you. So if you're going to buy an apartment instead of a house, buy a condominium or buy a townhouse. It's just like buying a house, you get the same benefits, but you could later rent it off. You have no maintenance fee. You have a maintenance fee, you pay an escrow or maintenance fee, but you basically aren't doing any kind of work outside of the house, doing anything, cutting the grass. That's all inclusive of the what do you call it, your kind of minimum assessments. Or if you can buy a rent with an option to buy. Some people, they want, they have a lot of houses that are turning around, and the economy is not really is getting better for people buying homes. So in the meantime, they just rent out the asset to pay off their own mortgage, but give the individual pay a little bit more with the ability to that little incremental cash, maybe a down payment, so you have the ability to buy this house after 2 years. You have first option on that. Okay, and some money back in there. Okay, So you look at the interest and you can write it off. See what the government's doing to try and take away that. They're saying that you should not be able to write off any home interest, but that's something going on. Right now you can write off your interest. Look at it this way, either I'm paying interest to the bank or I'm paying taxes. So when you're looking at a financial plan from a business, which makes more sense? Which makes more sense is which one reduces my overall expense? Is it to the government? Is it to the bank for interest rates or income interest payments? Which one's going to allow me to have more money in my own pocket? And that's what a financial plan is. That's what you do in your own personal when you're doing your insurance and everything else. Okay, savings and managing credit. You know, credit cards. You almost need one or two credit cards. You're not going to be able to buy a home or even travel. And all a credit card does, I don't want you to expand. A lot of people look at credit as an extension of earnings. I mean, I'm going to spend it now and hopefully get more money to pay off my credit cards. You look at a credit card to do investment capital, short-term loans to get you to buy that capital, to buy that goods going forward. The credit is something that you need in the short, something happens, it's a short cash bridge, for lack of a better word, not an extension. And then the minute you have it, you pay it off. So all credit's going to do when you look at the 5 C's of credit, when you jump on here, is why you need credit. It looks at capacity, how much you could pay, character, do you pay everything on time or are you always late, conditions, economic, employment conditions. The better, the longer you've been employed, the better credit rating you have, collateral, what you need up front. Women get harder time getting credit. And that's basically because, and I'm not saying everything's equal, but it's just that you have more dependence and it comes up to divorce or anything else or separation, the woman basically will take over the child. But that's changing because if you're looking at now single parents and single parents being men, that number is increasing. It used to be like about 5%, now it's about 20 going up to 30%. So pretty soon it's going to be 50-50. It's the same amount of single men versus single women that are taking care of children. But at the present, there's still more women that have that responsibility that a man may just pay the minimum that he pays for what do you call it, the child maintenance fee. You know what I mean? But after that, it's no longer there. Okay, so we go back there. So make sure you understand that. Make sure you know the difference between a debit card and a credit card. Different types of insurance. When you're younger, you want the term insurance. It's just like pure insurance, like a car. You don't get anything back. You have no accidents. Your rates go down, but you only keep it in case I get an accident, so it'll recoup my losses. But I don't get any money back. So that's basically when I look at term insurance. When you're younger, you want to just have that something would happen that would pay off if you're married or you have an obligation. You have a single parent or single, or the only bread earner, you want to make sure that you have some kind of insurance if something happens to take care of your loved ones. Okay, and also to give you a nice proper burial. Auto, what's the difference between liability and what do you call it? Liability and the deductible. The higher the deductible, that means you pay up front, the lower your overall premiums are. But if you're a person who's very accident prone, you have a new car, and $1,000, and if you're out of work, that's a lot of money. And remember, when you look at the deductible, if it's not your fault, then you don't have to worry about the deductible. The other person pays the full amount. Okay. And then disability insurance. I'm working construction. Something happens, I can't do the job. So a lot of times, other than workman's comp, I have a disability insurance that will pay for my. I think Netflix or the one with the duck that goes around there. He or she's basically, the duck is there selling insurance, and they're trying to promote one over the other. You know who I'm talking about. In case I, as a construction worker, get hurt and I can't climb or do the physical work, it pays my my salary. It gives me food, money for my food and my rent and everything else as part of the insurance. Okay, umbrella insurance, unemployment, and everything else. These are required by law that businesses have to carry. What's an annuity? That's if I retire or if I'm doing money. It's compound interest in reverse. If you look at insurance, if I look at a credit card, you don't have to pay the bills, but you just pay the minimum. It means I still have to pay more than, because if I'm paying a minimum, it may not cover my interest costs, expenses on that loan. So I'm always going to be charged that. So if I'm looking at annuities, compound interest keeps on adding over and over. So if I'm looking at an annuity from insurance, or if I'm looking at a life insurance, a whole life, is basically an annuity in reverse. Only I'm getting the money instead of the credit card companies. Okay, Social Security. Make sure you understand Social Security. If you're in that age, when do I get full benefits? You can retire and collect that, as a disability, or at 62 or 63, but then you get a penalty. I think after 67, you get the full amount, plus you can work as much as you want if your health is still there. So make sure you're under there. IRAs, it's individual retirement accounts, and it depends whether it's tax deferred or a root IRAs. IRAs basically doesn't give up the upfront tax deductible. If I look at tax deferred, what happens in an IRA, individual retirement account, and I'm paying it myself, is, for a nutshell, is I just got a raise for $2,000. Let's say I'm just making up $1,000 a month. Now, if I do that, I'm going to be taxed 33%. But I'm going to say I'm going to take $300 out of that, or $200 out of that. I'm going to be taxed 33%, and I figure that tax comes up to like $50 or additional to my taxes for that week. And it takes care of income tax, Social Security, and everything else. Now I take an IRA. So basically, I said I'm not going to pay the taxes. So instead of the $2,000 or $1,000, and I paid a $50 tax, I'm going to say I'm going to take $200 of that and put in an IRA. So the government's going to look at the $200 I'm going to take out, or whatever, or take out of that 1,000. So now I'm only going to be charged for a $700 income increase in my income, and $700 maybe $30 taxes. So I'm saving $20 overall for that week, and then if you compound that over the whole year, you see what I mean? So now I got the raise, but what they did, you take the money out. So now that money's not being taxed. But now when I'm 60, I think it's like 62 or 57, look at the laws, they've changed it, and I want to take the money out. Not take it out early. I take it out early, I take the full penalty, I'm paying the taxes and a withdrawal. But I'm going to take it out when I'm at the right age to take it out. And now I'm not working full time, I'm only getting Social Security or my retirement, whatever. So my tax base isn't that high. So when I put that money, the $700 or that $3,000 that over the year into that amount and spend it out there, my tax is going to be less, hopefully, because my income is going to be less overall. But when you look at, and then you have to look at the present value of the dollars now. So I spend how much is the dollar worth now versus how much the dollar is going to be worth in 20, 30 years. That's all finance, but there's programs right now that will develop that. So that's the difference between individual IRAs and versus a root. Now, root IRA basically is saying the same thing. I put the money away, but I pay the taxes up front. I'm paying the whole $1,000 up front, and then I put in the saving. And then when I get later on, and I'm still working, but I want to take it out, I don't have the penalty as much because I've already paid the interest up front now. And I'm just taking out its interest-free money, or tax-free money at the end. Okay, so make sure you understand that. 401 basically replaced the traditional retirement plans, and you look at retirements and benefits. Sometimes the companies put into it, and so when you leave an organization, you take your pension and retirement. The problem with the 401 is that a lot of people, you have the ability to take money out for emergencies. I need a car as an emergency. I need to get married as an emergency. I'm not saying those are the emergencies, I'm just making up, but people will take the money out for whatever reason, and now when they're ready to retire at 67, they have no retirement because they utilize it. Where the traditional type of retirement plans that your father or some of you already have that has the annuities, you can't get that to take it out early until you're ready to at that age. So you leave the company and you don't get anything out. You can't touch it till you reach 63 or 65 and you officially retire. Planning your estate, make sure you know who your will is. Make sure you know the difference between the will. The will is after I dead. The executor is the person who takes care of the will. And if I look at the power of attorney is while I'm alive. Be careful, you can do power of attorney just for my finance, or power of attorney for my health, or power of attorney for some other kind of business application or personal application. But if you give power of attorney to an individual to move your financial goods and everything else, they can sell it, they can buy it, they can take all your money out, they really have no rights. But what's happening when you see an elderly person is gives power of attorney for their finances, and the younger person, the power of attorney is because they at a certain age no longer have the mental capacity to understand what's going on, and they're taking advantage of the person. That's when the state comes in and say, hey, you're ripping off this person. The money should have been to make for the quality of life and well-being, but you're spending it on your own good. We're taking you to court and we're bringing the money back, and you're going to jail. The reason for that is because if you already have the money to be self-sufficient, you worked all these things, you should have a good life. If you don't have the money, then Social Security and the state has to take care of you. So you just ripped off the state. The state's doing it for two things: to make sure you're honest, and also make sure that the people who are paying the taxes and Medicare, Social Security are not being ripped off because somebody else had the asset but somebody else stole it from them. Okay? And we talked about the 5 C's, and the 5 C's is your character, your capacity, conditions, collaterals you have. And investment strategies: start earlier, get insurance, and to make sure, term is when you're a certain age. It's cheap, it's dirty, it's quick. I mean, cheap and dirty is very inexpensive. As you get older, my age, term gets expensive, because if you're here, the closer you get, the odds are you're only going to live so long. So you may want whole life. Whole life locks it in. It's kind of like a term insurance with some interest bearing on part of your insurance. But if you talk to your financial planner, he or she's going to tell you you're better off taking their money. It's going to pay instead of for the whole life. Get the term and put it away and invest it in something. You get a larger return. Okay, diversify, invest early, and the investment pyramid. Always start off, when you first start off, you start off with your risks and gains. Make sure in the bank or savings is federal insured. Municipal bonds are fairly safe. And if you look at the state of Illinois, it's not very safe. They're looking at garbage, but they're getting a little bit better unless they reform the pension. But there's a lot of states that are financially sound, but they're usually a good investment, because if the state goes under or anything else, they usually pay off. Stocks and mutual funds, international bonds, collectible junks. You've got futures at the last. And if you look at mutual bonds or mutual bonds are okay, and then you look at mutual funds, the stocks funds. If I look at mutual funds are good. Somebody else is taking care of the investments for you, and you're paying them a fee. Problems with mutual funds, you don't know what the fee you're paying them. It's all inclusive. It's like all bundled in for the cost. You just know what kind of return, but should you be getting a higher return? And laws are changing, so that basically takes care of your personal finances, and that's it. And we're doing this on chapters D, or chapters 24 in personal finance and introduction to business. You're taking me online or in face-to-face class. This is one of the series. Thank you very much. Bye.